Everybody, welcome back into Bayou Time. This is Going Public. We're talking temporary housing today and what we're doing after Hurricane Katrina. Not Katrina, that was a long time ago. Hurricane Ida. Chris Pulaski, Terrebonne Parish Planning and Zoning Director. Hey, Chris, thanks for being with us. You know, you do read about a lot of representatives from our area, and when they talk about is there a big issue in our area after the storm? It's almost 2 months now. First thing you hear, housing. We need housing for these people to come back, and so there's a three-stage process to what we're doing. So that's what we're going to talk today. Where are we at with housing? How many people are looking for housing, and what are we doing in the parish?
Well, yeah, as you mentioned, we're approaching this from three different angles. So you have the folks who have an immediate need. They're sleeping in their car, they're sleeping under a tent, they're sleeping under the FEMA tarp. So that's where we look to these base camps, as the state refers to them. And really what they are is congregate sheltering, very much like we traditionally have in Houma, like at the Municipal Auditorium or Dumas. And we did have those facilities opening after the storm, but they weren't at full capacity. And we came to learn that you have a lot of people who are in the lower bayou communities especially that are reluctant to leave. Often a lot of them were fearful to leave their private property behind. So we working with the council members, we identified the communities that could benefit from these base camps and how many people. So we contacted the state, and they went ahead and started procuring the contracts for these base camps. So right now, there are 4 in total in Terrebonne. That one on the screen there is in Dulac. That's a 100-person camp. That, on the right-hand side of the screen, that's Bateau Drive. So just off to the right, off screen, is the gym. The library's in the back right corner of the screen. And this is all behind the old Grand Caillou Middle School. So there's 100 people. The big tent on the left-hand side is the housing area. So you've got it's subdivided into men, women, and families, and then those areas are further subdivided. So the groups sizes range from anywhere from 8 at some camps to 14. So if you show up and you have a family of, say, 12 or 14, odds are you're going to be in an area all to yourself, like in a pod, let's say, all to yourself. Or another location, Chauvin, that one's Montague there. That's 200 people. There you have, all of them have the same wraparound services, meaning they have housing, they have meals, so you get 3 meals a day. There's laundry service, there's restrooms, there's showers, there's a medical tent, you've got recreation, for kids, activities for kids. You've got the animal shelter provided some basic supplies and stuff for that. AT&T put out charging stations and hotspots, so you've got Wi-Fi. And then what the state administers these camps, so they have staff there 24/7. So an occupant of the camp, when they come in, if they need help with registering for FEMA disaster assistance services or SBA small business loans or home loans, homeowners loans, or any of those types of services, the state folks on site can help facilitate that and get them in contact with those people.
Right. Now, when you look at that, and we're a little different area, and I know a lot of folks are real proprietary about their own little spot,
Yeah.
And people have called me and like, hey, what can we do? And it's like, it's a little different here, We need some help, but we don't need certain help. So I know a lot of people didn't want to go to those shelters. And when you look at that, the first thing probably comes to your mind is like, is that like the border, that kind of stuff? These are not like that at all. These are places where you can come and go,
yeah.
and there's no stipulation at all. So there's no reason to be worried that you're going to have to stay in the camp or any of that.
You're not on lockdown.
Right.
You come in, you register when you arrive. You register this, my name, this is how many people are in our household and so forth. And so once you get registered, then you can come and go. You can go to work, you can go to school, you can go home and work on your house. There is a lights out at 10 p.m. at these things, but if you have a job that requires you to stay, like your shift doesn't let out till 11 or 12, that's fine.
Right.
When you check in, they can make those kinds of accommodations for you. Same as if you have special needs, like, okay, well, I've got special medical needs, or, I have some sort of, I need a space that's ADA compliant. All of that can be provided to you. It's just a question of letting them know when you register, when you show up.
Yeah, but like I said, I think a lot of people are just scared because I'm adding it up. You got over 500 spaces for 500 people. We probably a little over 100 that are probably accessing this right now. So a lot of people could be using it more, right?
Yeah, I mean,
and like I say, we constantly hear that we need housing, and that could be one of the reasons.
Well, we have a 200 at Montague, 100 in Dulac, 100 in Chauvin. As of this morning, Montague was at 50, Chauvin was at 50, and Dulac was at 6. Now, we have Scott Lane here in Houma behind Bayou Towers. It is a 100-person camp. I don't have an aerial of that one. The drone, I think they went up today to take a picture because it just opened Thursday. But it's already full.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah, and we've already requested another 100. But we learned at that location there's more of a need for folks who are elderly or have some sort of disability. So the makeup of housing units is a little bit different at Scott Lane than at some of the other locations. Right. So
now that's by the high rise.
Correct.
Now does that include some of the high rise residents?
Yes, it does.
So they had emptied that building out, right?
Correct. Some of those folks are staying in locations outside of the area. There's some that have found shelter either at the shelter that we have had set up at town. It's out on Equity Boulevard now, and so there's some Bayou Towers residents over there that may be coming back to this location because it's comforting to them to be close to home.
Right.
And so that's part of it too. I mean, there's a human element
sure
that has to be recognized and dealt with. I mean, these people are under a tremendous amount of stress. I mean, they have no place else to go. And so we're trying to accommodate them as best we can.
So when you register, there's no, you just have to tell them you're a resident.
Right.
A lot of these things, and I'm thinking a different as our world changes. Folks might not be, they might be illegal, right? But you're not going to turn them into immigration or anything
Correct.
Like that.
I mean, these are intended to act as a shelter. They are a temporary shelter to get people out of the elements, and a safe environment, a place to sleep. I mean, they're cots.
Right.
Right?
Yeah,
or bunks. Some of them
permanent.
have bunk
Right.
beds. Some of them, the ones that we have that we're waiting on to come in at Scott Lane, are double beds because, you get a couple and they're elderly, getting up on a top bunk.
Right.
That's a challenge for a lot of people. So, so we want to be accommodating like that. But yeah, they're as comfortable as they can be, and I think it's not something you have to call ahead and register
Right.
for. You can just show up. And if there's space available, great, they'll take you in. If for some reason there isn't, it's just at capacity, then we do have these other locations. Now, if the numbers in these other locations don't get up to, higher, chances are we might, the state may look to close down and consolidate some of these locations, which, I guess that'll just depend
Sure.
on what is the current need and whether it's Montague that stays open and the others close down. We don't know. We'll just have to wait and see.
Right. And then, you do laundry for you. You get food there. There's a lot of services there. And
Yeah.
but I understand, it's always a sensitive time when you evacuate. You're worried about your stuff and you want to come back and
Sure.
take care of your stuff. Now, the second part, and we can just get into the start with, the second part would be the trailers, right? And that's the next phase of it.
Correct. So, the travel trailers, like the ones you see at the Civic Center parking lot on the side of the skate park side, those are travel trailers that that the state
right.
has acquired, and that is a staging area for those travel trailers. So the images you're seeing there are the first group of travel trailers that the state brought down to the area that were delivered to various private properties. So these are all first responder and essential workers, parish essential workers.
I know the sheriff department made a big row of houses for a lot of his workers.
They did. They went and procured their own trailers and had them set up at a group site.
Right.
We have some of our first responders and essential workers who say they rented, they don't own property. They've been placed in travel trailers at the Civic Center, but on the other side, on the Courier Building side, right, where the RV hookups all are.
Right.
And then the rest, general population and those that are added into the fold, they're going to, the majority of them will be on individual sites or in the larger group sites.
Okay. All right, Chris, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk more in the next phase of where we go with temporary housing. We'll do that next, right here on Going Public.
A new company with a lot of history, GIS Engineering has rapidly grown its brand around an experienced team of professionals. GIS Engineering is a full-service planning, engineering, procurement, and construction management company specializing in coastal protection and restoration, upstream and downstream industrial, and transportation infrastructure projects. Putting people first, GIS Engineering, a new company with a lot of history.
Pelican Waste and Debris is your local company. We don't just work here, we live here and understand the unique challenges that face our region. Our commitment to our community and customers and love for Louisiana keeps us motivated. Pelican meets every residential and commercial service need, offering roll-off, front-load, and compactor services, ideal for hotels, restaurants, apartments, construction or industrial sites, and much more. We also make recycling simple and cost-efficient, offering single-stream recycling program options. We have set the highest standards for environmental protection, community engagement, and guaranteed client satisfaction. Visit pelicanwaste.net or call us at 985-873-9553 to save money with hassle-free service. Our team has over 100 years of experience, so we know how to make you happy. The sky is the limit, so fly with the Pelican.
A new company with a lot of history, GIS Engineering has rapidly grown its brand around an experienced team of professionals. GIS Engineering is a full-service planning, engineering, procurement, and construction management company specializing in coastal protection and restoration, upstream and downstream industrial, and transportation infrastructure projects. Putting people first, GIS Engineering, a new company with a lot of history.
Everybody, welcome back to Going Public. I'm Harry McCullough. We're joined today by Chris Pulaski, the Terrebonne Parish Planning and Zoning Director. Chris, thanks. We're talking temporary housing. We talked about some of the big camps that people are using temporary housing. The next step is to bring in some trailers for those folks. And we were talking beforehand, the first, that's from the state. And the third phase would be FEMA coming in there, but FEMA takes, that's a big boat to turn around, right, and to get rolling. So what are you thinking about FEMA and temporary housing like that?
Well, FEMA, I mean, from early on, and by their own admission, their program takes anywhere from 4 to 6 months to get up and running. And the state recognized this. I think they experienced some of that with Hurricane Laura last year. And in other disasters, that gap in time from post-disaster until the FEMA program is up and running traditionally has been handled by doling out hotel vouchers. Well, the problem we have here is a lot of our hotels were either damaged or they're occupied by crews and folks who are here to repair the critical infrastructure. And so and that's all around.
Right.
So the closest hotels that you have available are out of state, and people are just reluctant to go that far out. So the idea is, GOSEP said, look, we will start procuring travel trailers. We'll get them delivered to staging areas around the region. I think there's one in Houma, one in St. Charles Parish, and one in Prairieville. So the one in Houma is at the Civic Center. So, that right there, I mean, people need to recognize if you go and start counting the number of travel trailers, doesn't necessarily mean, if there's 200 in the parking lot, doesn't necessarily mean that all of those 200 will be delivered in Terrebonne. Stands to reason most of them will,
Right.
but not necessarily all of them. So we've gone through all of the names that have been submitted, everyone who's called in to their councilman, who's applied on our web portal, on the parish's website, sent emails in, however you got your information in, we have it. But now that the state has brought in their own contractor to help administer the overall program, I've found out just this past week that, Sunday as a matter of fact, that the state will require people to register with their program as well. So it's a little bit redundant, but unfortunately it has to be done in order for them to get into one of those state trailers. So there is a website where you can go and register. It's idashelteringla.com. And if you go to the parish's website and go to the temp housing website that we set up, it'll direct you to that state one. So you can get registered, or we'll help you with that. But everyone on the list that we have, we've taken all those names, we've basically randomly shuffled them, because there's no way to determine, like on a first come, first served basis. We had 12 different sources. It's impossible to do that, and it's not fair.
Right.
So to make it fair, we just took all the names and reshuffled the deck, so to speak. So now that we've basically have gone through all of the parish essential workers and first responders, we're now moving over into the next group of people, which is general population. And we also have some other essential workers that we're sort of folding into the lineup. But what we're trying to do is ensure that the trailers are delivered equally amongst the various council districts. We certainly realize that some districts have more, in terms of sheer numbers, more units that are damaged, but it does, houses that are damaged. But if your house is damaged, you don't care what council district you're in. All you know is your house is damaged. So what we're going to do when we're turning in these names to the state, we're doing it in batches so that we can ensure that we're getting the fair and equitable distribution amongst the council districts. So 10 on a daily basis. Let's say we submit 90 names, so 10 from each district, right? And so our guys are going out to each location to verify that the damage is indeed sufficient enough to warrant, a travel trailer. Like maybe they've made repairs to the home since that time. Maybe they're not even in need of it anymore. So phone calls are being made to ask those kinds of questions. For those people who said, no, I still do need it, we send a crew down, they inspect, make sure that the house is indeed unlivable. Once we go through that process, we then turn it into the state and say, okay, we've vetted these guys. They will then go down and look at the location of where that travel trailer being requested is to be placed. So most people, if they have space on their property, great, they'll put it there.
A little power pole or something.
Right, and maybe they need to have a temp pole installed. Maybe they can tie into the existing meter, but the state's crew has to go down and lay eyes on that property and make sure there is sufficient space and what the utility hookups are like. For those folks who rent, in the past, FEMA said you're going into a group site. Not this time. Now, so what they are allowing for is if you rent, but you have the ability, like a friend or a family member would allow you to have the travel trailer placed on their property. They have to sign some releases and stuff, but that's doable.
Yeah.
And so the state guys will just go there to look at that. Once it's determined that the space is adequate, then that travel trailer goes from the staging area, gets delivered on site, and then they go through the hookup process. So, you know, right now, that whole thing from one end to the other, they're telling us they could have people back in these travel trailers within 7 days. I think we could probably, I think as time goes on, I think we'll just get more efficient and faster at the process. But there's going to come a time when, you know, we've run through our allocated number of trailers, and they may still be people who are in need, and that's why we've done this sort of random shuffle, because it's just not fair to.
Right. Do we have any idea how many applicants?
Well, I mean, the list has gotten up near 5,000, but we're scrubbing that down because there's a lot of duplicates.
Right.
There's a lot of names.
And that's just terrible.
Correct. We have folks who have requested trailers that not only do they not live in Louisiana, but they've never lived a day in their life in Terrebonne, but yet they somehow magically wind up on our list. So we got to vet all of that stuff. But for those people, the state program is a 6-month, intended to be a 6-month program. Again, it just fills that gap in time. And from there, if you're in a state trailer, let's say you fixed your home and you no longer need it, great. But if you have your home is severely damaged and you're still working on repairs, at 6 months' time, chances are you'll just transition over into the FEMA. That's why the state's criteria is very similar to FEMA's for that reason.
Transition right over.
Yeah, I mean they're not going to kick they don't want to kick somebody out of a trailer. So, you know, especially obviously somebody's still in need, so the thought process is they would just move over into the FEMA program. That FEMA program is intended to run anywhere from 18, possibly even 24 months, you know, out after the storm.
Well, I mean, if Katrina's any indication, you saw trailers in New Orleans for 5-10 years almost.
Right.
But, so that was my next question. So this trailer would be provided for approximately 2 years unless you got an extension.
Correct. And there are other, FEMA has a little more flexibility in terms of the types of housing units that they deploy. So travel trailers, certainly we're going to see a lot of that. But they have a very detailed set of questions that they ask applicants, and they may determine through that line of questioning, hey, look, this person's definitely going to be in this unit or going to be in need of a unit for longer than 6 months or maybe even 18. So they may be more inclined to put that person into something with a little more longevity, like one of their park model units. I mean, they even have mobile homes in their repertoire.
You can't move those around, huh? I know you can, but are the applicants?
Well, no.
Can they go camping on weekends?
So they all have to be permitted wherever they're placed.
I got you.
But the catch is, and I know a lot of people may be familiar that, you know, sometimes FEMA at the end of their programs will offer the units up for sale. Now we've made special allocations through Parish President Dove's executive orders and so forth to allow for travel trailers and RVs to be lived in zoned areas that wouldn't normally allow for that.
Right.
We've also parish-wide have allowed RVs, travel trailers, and mobile homes to be placed below base flood elevation in special flood hazard areas. But all that's just temporary.
Right.
So at the end of the deal, if you decide you want to purchase that mobile home, well,
you can't
be
just
aware
live there,
that you're going to have to get it compliant before you can purchase it. And with those allocations, like the zoning allowances, That applies to travel trailers and RVs, but not to mobile homes. So if you're looking for a location to place a mobile home unit, you know, it should be in a location that is either zoned for it or it's outside of zoning.
Yeah, and that's a different deal from what this is completely temporary.
The ones everybody seems to be talking about right now, of course, are the temporary travel trailers, because that's what they see every day in the parking lot.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to get out as quickly as
For
possible.
sure. Well, look, it's helped a lot. You gave us a lot of information. I know we've got a long way to go, but Chris Pulaski, thanks so much for being with us.
Sure.
All right, we'll be back with more Bayou Time. This is Going Public. We'll be right back.